Kia ora, everyone. My name is Saba Samiei. I'm the founder of two companies. One is called Comfort AI or Comfort.ai, which is dedicated to make AI the comfort zone of our audience. It's an education company. And the other one, which is the one that I've recently founded, is called Maxo, and we want to design Think the Future using AI, IoT, and a combination of edge and cloud computing. In terms of my own background, I have been an AI ethics researcher since 2016 with a background in computer science and recently doing some technical upskilling. So thank you, Sadir, for the demo earlier. So going to the actual presentation that I want to talk to you about today, to Arnie's point earlier, the promises of AI, they vary from automation of tasks to curing disease and extending human lives beyond imagination. On the other hand, we hear a lot of people who actually invest in AI telling us that this could be the last thing that we ever invent, or could lead to the total extinction of humanity. So as an AI ethics researcher, I always get these questions. So which is it? Is it good? Is it bad? Should we do it? Should we not do it? I get a lot of ideas as well, of viewpoints that, oh, this is just another media hype, or no, there's something like really fundamental wrong that we should care about. So this is what I love about my work, actually. It's to talk to a lot of people, get a lot of viewpoints, and often in my presentations and my talks, we end up with more questions than we do with answers. And so I'm hoping that whether you're watching this live or watching it, the recorded version later, that I would also leave you with some more questions, but rather than answers. But hopefully, different way of asking questions. I also have a few advice, practical advice, 3 different pieces of practical advice for you that should hopefully help set you on the right path. So without further ado, I am going to talk about 2 subsets of AI today. One is robotics and the other one is machine learning, and also give you a little bit of an overview of what we do in ethics and what our view is, or my view is. So robotics. This subset of AI is actually very interesting because the history of it goes back to nearly 5,000 years ago. So it's not actually that new. Some argue that it goes back that far because they talk about when people started using artificial limbs for humans. So as soon as people started imitating different human body parts. The word robot, however, comes from a Czech writer in 1570, I believe, which means forced labor. So if any of you wonder what that word means. However, coming a bit more recent, pretty much since the Industrial Revolution, is when we saw this boom in robotics and them being used quite widely. So the reason why I've got a coin here is I want to talk about both the good and the bad side today. The things that we really need to appreciate and the things that we need to be very wary of. So number one, use of robotics that has somewhat been quite helpful is the industrial robots. Without them, we wouldn't be able to have this much stuff, cater to so many people on our planet. Things won't be this cheap. They would be very, very expensive like they were. Having different types of clothes was a luxury prior to the Industrial Revolution. Now, some might argue that these factories and industries, industrial robots themselves, might, have some kind of unethical codes of conduct. Agree to that. That's not our point today. We're just talking about the beneficial side of robotics. And they've also, these industrial robots, been very helpful in places where it's been very dangerous for humans as well, like nuclear power plants or mining. The other places that robotics has been very helpful is the medical sector. So with robots that can operate, surgery with, perform surgeries with, quite high accuracy and be very precise. And we all know that, doctors like us, with huge amount of respect for them, we're all human. We get tired, we get sick, we can sneeze or cough, get emotional. Our hands could shake. So with medical robots, those kind of factors can be taken away, and alongside a doctor and a robot, we can see a much better outcome. And if used widely, then we can argue that they can potentially bring down the cost of healthcare as well and make it more accessible. The other place that robotics has been very helpful in most recent years is enablement. So some of you might have seen this video that I have a photo of here. That's a supermarket worker who is like working remotely, putting stuff on the shelf. This went viral during COVID, as who says supermarket staff can't work remotely. So I thought that was a really interesting use, because this person who's the human operator is actually sitting at home and the robot's outside doing the work, which is good not just now during the pandemic, but later on as well. If someone is unwell or for whatever reason unable to go to work, they can always remotely operate their robots. Another place that I have seen robotics do some really good work is in enabling people with a disability to actually interact and earn money. So this robot was in Japan. So it allows the users to actually operate it from home, allowing them not just to earn money, but talk to other people, interact with them, maybe even make friends for people who up until before this development, things like this could have been very difficult or sometimes impossible. However, the other side of this robotics development is some of the automated weapons that are being developed. So in some of my previous presentations, I've also talked about this guy here. Fedor is a Russian military robot. I am yet to follow up on where the development of this robot is. Russia says that they have made it to send it to space as a kind of like a one robot spaceship, so with no human operators. However, certain skills that they're teaching it, including like shooting guns and injecting syringes, or some of the physical abilities and that they are teaching it, is somewhat questionable. And then it raises the question of, so what are you doing with this? Like, where are you taking it? So if you're just sending it to space to do certain stuff, great, but what else? Why is it a military robot? There's some other military robot developments as well. This picture at the bottom, I have recently seen that in Australia. So I think they're on the path to create ethical military robots. However, we're talking about automating intelligence here. And we all know that good and bad people in any culture, in any country, can be quite subjective. So not only there's questions about the accuracy of these devices, but also about the actual development of them in terms of who says who is a good person or a bad person, who defines that enemy. So these are some of the kind of the other sides of the coin with regards to the developments in robotics. And I'm sure there are many more, but I just wanted to give you some examples. So number one advice I have for everybody when it comes to, especially when you're talking to people about the good and the bad, educate yourself. Read, watch stuff, talk to people, try and understand the underlying reasons why they are against or in favor of something. Try and really understand everyone's point of view before you either accept it blindly or kind of form an opinion that could in some cases be unfounded. So robots, great, but robots on their own, they're just a piece of hardware. They can't do anything. They need a brain, and that is when machine learning comes in the picture. And this is one area that I actually quite like, because it's also an area that, at Maxo, we are quite focused on. So let's talk about the positive side of the coin. Again, I'm going to start with the medical industry. So algorithms in the medical industry have proven to be quite successful and very useful in terms of, I'm going to take the example of cancer research here. There have been evidence of and research showing that using the algorithms alongside humans, they have increased the accuracy of the diagnostics to 90% plus, which is great. And it's great that this accuracy rate is higher than the machines doing it alone and humans doing it alone. So when you combine the power of two, they can achieve great results. Other places that you can see algorithms being quite useful is in fraud detection. So obviously in our banking, that's a very concerning topic. So whether it's like fraud detection, cybersecurity, these algorithms have actually been quite useful in helping us live a somewhat safer life in a place where we're all operating on the internet, and oftentimes we don't even know who's on the other side of the machine that we are talking to or working with or giving our information to. Another place, in my opinion, is the development in self-driving cars. So some of you would have seen the number of people that die every year due to car accidents around the world. It's 1.35 million people. That's an average of 3,700 people every day. It is estimated that self-driving cars, once implemented fully, so there are no human drivers, can save up to 350,000 people in the United States alone. That's every year. So we can see that it could be very, very beneficial. Now, one question I always get when it comes to self-driving cars, the trolley problem. And I haven't talked to a single person about self-driving cars that does not bring up that topic. What if a car kills someone? Who is going to take up that responsibility? We don't want to see our dear ones, be killed by a robot and no one being held to account. I would argue that you need to think about, the wider effect. If you were the decision maker here, in words of one really good that I've come across recently, Mahmoud Hikmet, who's the CIO of Omeo, in his words, the question, the real trolley problem that he puts out for everyone is, if you were the decision maker to say, I'm going to save 350,000 people in the US alone, or millions of people every year, versus the deaths that are going to happen are going to be by robots or the self-driving cars, but they're going to be significantly less. Which one would you choose? There's no right or wrong answer. Obviously, with self-driving cars, we are going to reduce those deaths significantly. That means 1.35 million families as well. So it's not just the people. But of the accidents that do happen, they happen because of the self-driving cars. So whether you're pro or against, I would leave that up to you. But this is the positive side of the coin that we're talking about. So I'm going to stick with the number of lives that these self-driving cars can save. The other place is education. Again, pros and cons on this one as well. A lot of people are like, oh, we're taking the human element out of education and teachers. I personally have a lot of love and respect for them. However, we all know that, we all know that every person has a different way of learning. There could be people with certain disabilities or different talent. And the current education system, it's very hard using the current education system to customize education for every single person. So this could be another example of using machine learning or AI, as well as a human element, or both together, to have a better outcome, and to be able to customize that education, do it in a way that that child really learns something that is that they enjoy and that is beneficial for them, and to a degree maybe even find what those talents are quite earlier on. Now the other side of machine learning, some of the very exciting yet questionable developments in machine learning. And I think Ani covered some of these as well. So number one is the way our information is being used is quite questionable. And it is our contribution as well. It's not just on social media that we share information. This information goes in the dark web as well. A lot of people, when I tell them about sharing stuff on social media, they're like, oh, that's fine. I don't have anything to hide. In my opinion, I personally have everything to hide from people who want to misuse this information. To give you an example, I used to work at a cybersecurity company, and as part of that, some of their research, they do a dark web research, and they found some information on a CFO of a company, and that information included when his children go to school, what time he's outside the house, what time he comes back, who are his friends, his wife, the date of birth of himself, his wife, his children, all that kind of stuff. And I think that is, very scary. So, but we are the one who's feeding these social media channels. We are the one who's putting photos of our little ones on the internet. There was a research that I came across that said 92% of American kids have a digital footprint before they turn 2. That is scary, especially that we don't have children's consent in terms of whether they want to have that digital footprint or not. So parents are very excited. Obviously, it's their child. It's what they want to show off to the world. But just think about how this technology is going to change 20 years from now. And especially when you put their name, the date of birth, the time that they were born, you're just giving someone all the information they need for identity theft. And they probably won't know it until they grow up, go to a bank, start creating a bank account, only to know that they have already a bad credit history. Number 2, again, on social media, but one thing that we are really concerned when it comes to ethics and some of the developments in AI is outsourcing our decision-making to machines. And while I was doing my research, I was talking about, connecting our neocortex to the cloud, and some of the stuff that, people are investigating at the moment or are developing at the moment. But a lot of people also think that, oh my God, it's sci-fi and who knows when it's going to happen. But going back to what is happening currently, a lot of our decision making is actually, especially the younger generation, is being handed over to social media. The amount of impact that social media has on our lives, from what we think the next fashion trend is to who we vote for, and the number of lives, millions of lives that we impact around the world. So in some ways that we can actually say that we have outsourced that decision making. So maybe it's time that we rethink that and we take it back, we take control. The other part, terms and conditions, we always say yes because no one has time to go and read any of that. I have seen some work done by GDPI, which is great, but at least there's a lot of work to be done in this space. I came across a research recently that said some apps that ask you to give access to the media on your phone because otherwise you cannot use them, the app, they're using the media that's on your phone to train their algorithms. Again, some of you might care, some of you might not. That's absolutely fine. I just want to make sure that you make that an informed decision. Last but not the least, something that Ani also pointed out earlier today is the bias. So I'm going to share a personal story with you. I've got 2 Instagram accounts, and this goes back to a week or 2 before. One of my accounts is my personal account. I just do like my normal search stuff. I keep in touch with my friends. The other one's my comfort.ai account, in which I do a lot of research on AI, looking at what's out there, the videos, coding, memes, and all that kind of stuff. And recently I've noticed that that second Instagram account thinks I'm a man. It's showing me ads of products targeted for men, like male wallets and male underwear and men building muscles in the gym. So I think that kind of hit me, that I was like, I'm always just researching these things and reading stories about other places and things that are happening out there, but here is one actually happening to me. And then, of course, we can talk about the Apple credit card, the Google facial recognition, the Amazon hiring. And the problem is not that, well, it is that these are happening, but it's also that some companies are just ignoring this and continue this development. So be careful about the data that you are feeding. And if you are in the development part of this industry, be very careful about these biases. Advice number 2, on that note, educate yourself, learn, listen, read, and make sure that you go into something with your eyes open. Don't just click accept. Don't just put something out there because it's just the new fashion trend. Make sure that you understand the ripple effects of that. And don't just think about what's happening now, but think about the possibilities of the future. Think about the photo of that friend that you shared that you do not have a consent from. Think about the photo of the child that you shared that you do not have a consent from. What if they grow up and, don't like you for what you did? Last point, does this mean ethics is here to say stop AI development? Absolutely not. I am an AI ethics researcher, and I wouldn't have founded 2 companies in AI if I thought that was the case. All we are saying is slow down a nudge, think about the unintended consequences, go into something with your eyes open. On the other hand, we also acknowledge that bad ethics could be unethical in itself. So if we dig into too much negative side, that we stop the development of something that could be quite beneficial for humans and save lives, that is bad ethics. We don't want to see that happening. And my last advice to every one of you, educate yourself, read, learn, talk, and spread the knowledge. And if you want to talk more, follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram on my comfort.ai or Maxo. Thank you.